Soldier Field, Chicago. On June 17th this year, the world's #1 sport will hit the USA, and things can never be the same again. If you think the Super Bowl is big with its worldwide audience of 253 million, well, the last World Cup soccer finals played in Italy were watched by a total audience of 26 billion people over the 4 weeks of the tournament. In the next hour, we'll attempt to explain the grip that this simplest of games has on a global scale and what the U.S. can look forward to as soccer fans from every corner of the globe converge on the nation in a sports and commercial extravaganza that's expected to generate around $4 billion for the country. A simple game, yes, but at its best, a game of constantly changing patterns, like in South America where the Brazilians play with heart and with soul.
Creativity of the Brazilians, and here's a lovely move again, and this might be 3. Careca, 3-0 it is for Brazil. What a beautifully created goal that was.
The European game is based more on strength, fitness, and wonderful athleticism.
Mateus can go again. Oh, great goal!
The Africans play with a rhythm and style all their own, where talent oozes from every pore, and sooner rather than later, it will surely produce the first ever World Cup winner from the African continent. In 1990, Cameroon, a nation of only 12 million people from the west coast of Central Africa, shocked the watching world when they beat the champions Argentina in the opening game of the tournament. They went all the way to the quarterfinals, illuminating the occasion with some glorious play. In the end, the championship was won by Germany, who over the last 25 years have dominated world soccer. This was their 3rd win, a feat equaled by Italy and Brazil. In fact, only 6 nations have ever won soccer's most coveted trophy since the World Cup's conception in 1930. The idea was the brainchild of this man, Jules Rimet, who gave his name to the trophy after years of tireless effort to get the competition off the ground. Just 13 countries attended the first ever finals played in Uruguay, and of those only 4 were from Europe. And it took them over a month to get to Montevideo. There was no air travel. In those days, the teams traveled by boat. The U.S.A. entered a team. They'd been members of soccer's governing body FIFA since 1913, and they performed well, beating Belgium and Paraguay before losing 6-1 to Argentina in the semifinals. Bert Patenaude was America's leading man, a scorer of 3 goals. Uruguay were the first ever winners, and as their president, Dr. Paul Jude, received the trophy from Jules Rimet, they could scarcely have foreseen the global success story the World Cup was to become. In 1950, the tournament was held in Brazil, and it was the stage for one of the biggest upsets in its history. England, one of the world's leading nations, were stunned into disbelief as the USA beat them 1-0 in Belo Horizonte. The goal scorer was Joe Gaetjens, who was from Haiti. It was and still is America's finest hour in soccer. But Gaetjens' life was to end in mysterious circumstances. When he went back to Haiti, he disappeared and was never seen again. The World Cup continued to grow as more and more nations caught the bug. By 1958, 16 nations competed in the finals, and it was this year that unearthed the greatest talent to ever grace a soccer field. A boy of just 17 named Edson Arantes do Nascimento, Pele for short, made his debut and was an instant sensation. A hat-trick against France in the semi-finals, followed by 2 more in the final against the host nation, Sweden. It was all rather too much for the boy. Pele's arrival coincided with a new age of technology. Television ensured a growing audience for the global sport. 1966 in England. London was the center of the swinging 60s in a rapidly changing world. England won the cup with Geoff Hurst scoring a hat-trick in the final, the only man ever to do so. 1970 in Mexico witnessed the greatest team in history, the wonderful Brazilians who mesmerized all opposition as the watching world purred in appreciation.
Ronaldinho, what's Pele now? What a beautiful goal from Pele! El Rey Pele! 100 goals for Brazil in World Cup competitions, and Brazil take this 1-0 lead. Gardino, first by Paquetti. Here goes Gerson. That's a good shot! What a beautiful goal by Gerson! Aiming into the box for Pele, and he's in behind everybody. It's gone down for Gardino. And he's walked it into the net. It's 3-1 Brazil. Oh, it's not a bad ball for Pele on the right side. It's Carlos Alberto. Oh, what a great goal that was!
And it was Carlos Alberto who lifted the trophy, the third time it had gone to Brazil. They would now keep the solid gold statue forever.
To be the captain of the national team, to be the captain of that great team was the best in my life, not only in my career, in my life.
The new trophy, standing 20 inches high and made of 18-karat solid gold, was ready for 1974. It was designed by an Italian, but it was a German, Franz Beckenbauer, who became the first triumphant captain to collect it. West Germany overcoming Holland and the great Johan Cruyff in the final. The next major milestone in World Cup history was 1982 in Spain, when the number of teams was increased from 16 to 24, enabling the likes of Kuwait, Cameroon, Honduras, New Zealand, and Algeria to come to the party. And the big boys were soon to realize that they weren't just along for the ride.
That's a good one. Morata looks for the cross. No! And stuck it! 2-1! Venezuela! How about that? Well, that is absolutely fantastic.
4 years ago, the tournament was staged in Italy for the first time. It was the perfect setting, a marriage of culture and passion that got to the heart of what the World Cup is all about. The U.S.A. were there too, after an absence of 40 years. The level of performance required came as something of a shock, but the team performed with commitment and ability. They didn't win a game, but in this severe test against the hosts, they were beaten by just one goal and could hold their heads high.
In 1990, we competed in the World Cup for the first time in 40 years. We played that World Cup. In this World Cup, I know we will compete well, with pride, with dignity. The next World Cup, we will be competitive. And in the future, 2002 and beyond, it's ours. We have come to play, and our boots are tight.
They began when the legendary Franz Beckenbauer carried out the World Cup trophy. Soldier Field in Chicago was the place for Game 1. The Germans, a heavy favorite, would take on the underdogs from Bolivia, but there were a lot of surprises in Chicago.
And some of the questions raised about these favorites from Europe concern their age. Yes, a very experienced team that was chosen by Bertie Folks, but also a team somewhat older than the average in this World Cup. And the question was, could they withstand the heat and humidity they would face in the U.S.A. 94?
Off of the Hessler chest trap, Jürgen Klinsmann would score what proved to be the game-winning goal. It was the only goal. That was one of the surprises in Game 1 for Germany. They could only score one against the heavy underdogs from Bolivia.
And Bolivia had surprised the world by beating Brazil in one qualifying match, and they did give the Germans a very tough battle in this day.
Game 1, gets the World Cup off to a rousing start in Chicago. Germany wins, but only by a slim 1-0 margin. When the United States played Switzerland, it was the first time a World Cup match was played indoors. And for the United States, they did not get off to a great start. A Brezzi goal off a free kick put the United States in a 1-0 hole.
And for the United States, it came down to a case of dueling free kicks. For at the other end, when they got their opportunity, Eric Wijnaldum made no mistake with this marvelous goal. This goal showed that the United States truly had arrived on the world stage in soccer, because it was a masterpiece.
The United States picked up their first points in a World Cup since 1950.
And with the great support of the fans behind them, they can now look ahead to their big challenge, Colombia.
Italy would meet Ireland at Giant Stadium in the Meadowlands. And the first surprise was the crowd. Not that it was a sellout, but that it was pro-Irish.
The Irish took over Giant Stadium this day, and this matchup was the one that was most anticipated ever since the draw in Las Vegas.
Everyone expected a low-scoring game, and they got it. They also saw an early goal by Ireland. Ray Houghton scored from outside the penalty area as the Irish fans erupted.
The main attacking tactic for Ireland was the long ball into the penalty area. It created a lot of confusion and creates this opportunity for Ray Houghton. And a stingy Irish defense was well able to protect their 1-goal lead.
For Ireland, it was an important 3 points. For Italy, an early wake-up call. World Cups always produce upsets. Romania versus Colombia. And early on, it was Romania on the attack.
And what a surprise that was. Everybody picked Colombia to be one of the favorites to win this, and they fell behind early to 2 magnificent goals, this one from Giorgi Hagi, who is to become a famous name in this World Cup.
But the proud Colombians battled back and actually made a game out of it.
But on this day, Romania was not to be outdone. It was the early sign of the emergence of Eastern European soccer in World Cup '94.
The Romanians celebrate over the first real upset of this tournament, a 3-1 win over Colombia. Cameroon faced an early challenge from Sweden. When Sweden scored the first goal by Young, Cameroon was on their heels 1-0.
But the Cameroonians attacked with great flair and panache and tied this game up very early, and then went into one of the very special celebrations of 1994.
Cameroon were the darlings of the 1990 World Cup, and goals like this and dances like this might make them popular in America in '94.
But Sweden, with their direct style of play, came right back at Cameroon, and Martin Dahlin got the tying goal. For Sweden then, this was a .1. And for Cameroon, an indication that this would not be 1990 revisited.
This would be our first look at Brazil and their wild fans. They always make it a home field advantage. The Brazilians against the Russians, and Romario sets the tone early. It was Brazil defeating Russia by a 2-0 score, proving that they were to be one of the forces in this 1994 World Cup. For Brazil, a 3-time champion, the beat goes on. The World Cup's biggest underdog, Saudi Arabia, scored this goal to give them a lead against Holland. It was their first goal in World Cup history.
The Dutch were stunned as they seriously underestimated the strength of Saudi Arabia, and it took a long-range shot by Wim Jonk to get them into a tie. Then it was only through a last-minute mistake by the Saudi Arabian goalkeeper that allowed Talment to give Holland the victory. There was more relief than joy at the Dutch bench as they were very nearly embarrassed by an impressive Saudi team.
When Argentina met Greece at Foxborough Stadium, it was David versus Goliath, and Goliath came to play. It turned into the Gabriel Batistuta show early on.
And the great news for soccer fans was that Argentina was back, showing all the skill in attack, all the commitment to verve and style that all fans had hoped for.
But the Argentina offensive explosion took away from the fact that there was a goalkeeper change. Sergio Goycochea was not in goal. Instead, it was Luis Islas. But anyone could have played goal on this day against the Greeks. And then it was Diego Maradona's turn. Maradona trying to put a finishing touch on to show that this could be his World Cup. Diego was back, if only for a short while. And then it was Batistuta putting the finishing touch on with this penalty kick. He gets the hat trick, and Argentina wins over Greece 4-0.
And the sounds of their success echoed from Boston to Bogota and to Rio, where the Brazilians suddenly realized they had an opponent to worry about now. And Maradona joyful after this one, but storm clouds were gathering for him. Spanish fans had very high expectations for this team, and the disappointment of the 2-2 tie with South Korea was forgotten as they took on Germany.
Especially after this great goal by Goycochea to give Spain a 1-0 lead against the defending World Cup champions. But the proud Germans come back, as they generally do, with their top gun Klinsmann scoring yet another goal, tying this one for Germany. Klinsmann would get more chances in this one, including this shot that goes over the bar. Bertie Folks would like to see more of Klinsmann, and he would. Klinsmann breaks through to the defense. The go-ahead goal, no. Disappointment for the Germans, it's only a tie.
And now, out of Africa, something new and something different. Nigeria in the World Cup for the first time as the champions of Africa. And Rashidi Yekini gave them their first goal and gave the world one of its most memorable pictures.
But Nigeria had more than just Yekini. Other players contributed en route to a 3-0 win over a stunned Bulgaria. Players like Amokachi and Amuniki were spectacular on the ground and in the air. Nigeria beats Bulgaria 3-0, shutting out Stoichkov and company, one of the few times during the World Cup that Stoichkov would be goalless.
And this is because they had Rufai in goal. And Nigeria showed that they had strong defense as well as flamboyant firepower up front.
Switzerland came into this match with Romania fresh off a 1-1 tie with the United States, determined not to let it happen again. The Swiss kept coming, and this goal by Chapuisat made it a 2-0 score against the surprised Romanian team. The rout continued when Knupp scored at the far post. And Knupp would get yet another goal. Switzerland won it 4-1 against Romania, sending Swiss hopes high and Romania back down to earth. A large United States crowd gathered to watch the United States against Colombia. The United States still an underdog, but had to like the way things were going. The ball was bouncing in their favor in the early moments of the game.
And the U.S. knew that against an opponent like Colombia, it was going to have to capitalize on every break it got. And no break was bigger than this mistake by Escobar.
Playing now with confidence, part of the U.S.-European connection. Stewart from Ramos, and another goal. The United States was out in front 2-0. And Tony Meola was keeping Colombia off the board. This Marcelo Balboa bicycle kick could have been frosting on a victory cake. Instead, it was the most replayed miss of the World Cup.
And a late, meaningless goal by Colombia did nothing to take away from the United States' remarkable victory. This was a huge win for United States soccer. It took them into the second round and gave them a very, very special place in the heart of sports fans all over the country.
It was a must-win game for Mexico in the heat of Orlando, having lost already 1-0 against Norway, but the heat was more conducive to Mexico's style of play, and Luis Garcia scored his first of 2. This second one put Ireland in a 2-0 hole.
And on-field frustrations and sideline hot temperatures boil over as John Aldridge gets into a fight with a FIFA official about the timing of a substitution. Coming to his rescue is the most popular Englishman in Ireland, Jack Charlton. Both would pay a heavy price later on.
Aldridge would eventually get into the game and cool off with this header to bring Ireland back. At this point, it's a 2-1 game, but under temperatures hotter than Jack Charlton's temper, the Irish wilt in the heat of Orlando.
Romario leads the cheers as he comes out for this match against Cameroon and makes a wonderful run down the middle of the field, splitting the defense and touching it with great skill under the Cameroon goalkeeper.
But there's more to Brazil than just Romario. It's Marcio Santos in the air, scoring here. And from ground level, the greatness of Bebeto shines through.
And Bebeto celebrates his goal and his newborn baby as the boys from Brazil don't miss a step on their march to the World Cup.
Sweden came into this match off a tie with Cameroon. Russia came in off a loss to Brazil. Sweden was to have the better success today, starting with a Brolin penalty kick. But there's more to Sweden than just Brolin. Try Dahlin with his header. It was an eventful day for Dahlin. This was his second goal. This went into the upper corner. He later picked up a yellow card and could not play against Brazil in the next game. A matchup between Belgium and Holland pitted two neighboring countries with strong World Cup traditions against one another. And it was to be a battle of frustration and a battle of goalkeepers in this low-scoring affair. Eventually settled on that goal by Albert. But goalkeeping was needed on the other end, and it was Prudhomme making save after save, keeping the shutout and gaining a victory for his side. Prudhomme would later go on to become the goalkeeper of the tournament.
Nigeria, fresh off their stunning 3-0 victory over Bulgaria, kept their goal-scoring ways with this early goal against the Argentines. And if it was the Batistuta show against Greece, it was the Claudio Caniggia show for Argentina this time around. Caniggia got two wonderful goals to lead Argentina to a 2-1 victory. Maradona did not score in this game, but his name was drawn for random drug testing.
Both analyses of the urine sample have proved to be positive. The player Diego Maradona of the Argentinian national team has therefore violated the provisions of the doping control regulations in the match Argentina-Nigeria.
For Maradona, the '94 World Cup was over. After the great victory over Colombia, the interest among American fans in this team was immense, and John Harkes almost put the United States ahead early in the game, but the post was the goalkeeper's best friend for Romania. And at the other end, a shot from near in beats Tony Meola to the near post.
Colombia entered World Cup 1994 as a heavy favorite. Instead, they went home as the World Cup's biggest disappointment, losing in the opening round, trying to recapture some dignity in what was to be their final match against Switzerland. Goals like this helped out today, but they were needed much earlier in the tournament. This goal would give Colombia a 2-0 win against Switzerland and maybe some of their pride back. But for the Colombian side, it was too little and much too late.
And their victory did little to soften the deep disappointment felt by their coach, Francisco Maturana. He resigned almost immediately. But a greater tragedy awaited defender Escobar when he returned to Colombia. His brutal and senseless murder was the ultimate price for a mistake on the soccer field.
Spain would meet Bolivia in a game that Spain must win in order to advance. For Bolivia, no wins, not even a goal. And Guardiola would give the Spanish team an early lead. This penalty kick goal set the tone, but more was to come.
The Spaniards took this game to Bolivia throughout the whole match, found some holes in the Bolivian defense, and Caminero had a wonderful day. 2 goals for him as Spain rolled on towards the second round and lifted from themselves the high pressure that's been on them because of great fan expectations.
Despite the fact that Bolivia would score their first ever goal in the World Cup, the day truly belonged to Spain. When the defending champions from Germany took on South Korea, a lot of people thought we would see the Germans at their best, under the most heat that they had faced since their venue had moved to Dallas from Chicago. And it was the Germans who were hot early. Hassler finding Klinsmann on this great turnaround goal. More of the German attack, getting more support from players like Buchwald and Karl-Heinz Riedler on this rebound. Riedler's only bright moment of the World Cup. And if you want more, you go with your number 1 guy, and that's Klinsmann. The Germans were off to the races, leading 3-0.
And in the second half, it was a totally different picture. The Koreans rallied and came back and scored an early goal. They had prepared for conditions like this by training in very hot and humid weather, and they were ready. The Germans were not. They began to wilt and giving up a lot of possession to the South Koreans, who took advantage with another great second half goal. 3-2, and the Germans barely hung on. They won, but it was yet another unsatisfying victory. This was the final match for Ireland and Norway in Group E, and this match would help determine who would advance to the next round. Fans came out in all kinds of colorful array, and Jack Charlton, Ireland's coach, was suspended for this game by FIFA for his misbehavior on the sideline against Mexico. It was a tight, tense match with very few chances for either team and pretty safe goalkeeping at both ends. The luck was with the Irish, and when travel plans were made, the Irish were going to Orlando, the Norwegians to Oslo.
RFK Stadium was the site for this important group of death matchup between Mexico and Italy. And when Italy scored off this Albertini pass to Daniele Massaro, it was Italy in the driver's seat, leading Mexico 1-0. But Mexico would come back from just outside the penalty area. Marcelino Bernal will pull the trigger, sending Mexico into a tie and their fans into ecstasy. Mexico would win the group. Italy would advance but finish a disappointing third. The teams were Russia and Cameroon. But before this game was over, everyone talked about one man, Oleg Salenko. He scored 5 goals.
So Salenko broke the single-game scoring record, but it wasn't enough to help his team advance. Brazil and Sweden in the indoors of Pontiac. And Brolin, so skillful out of midfield, looks up and sends the perfect pass to Kenneth Anderson, whose shot beats Taffarel for the first time in the World Cup. In the second half, Romario took over with his challenging run right through the center of the defense and produced the goal that gave Brazil the 1-1 tie. So the coaches shared the joy and the points. Who could have known then they would meet again?
Up to this point, we had still not seen our best from Holland as they prepared for the match with Morocco. But it was Holland getting off to the better start thanks to the individual brilliance of their great scorer, Dennis Bergkamp.
But questions had been raised about the lack of speed in the center of the Dutch defense, and here they are outpaced by Moroccan Nader as he scores the tying goal.
But Holland would come back and score what proved to be the game-winning goal on this shot by Roy, making their crowd happy, even though they know they have still not seen the best of Holland. Holland wins the group to advance, while Morocco would go home. For a team that was making their first ever appearance in a World Cup, Saudi Arabia was not only having fun, but they were getting results. In this match against Belgium, we probably saw the finest goal in the World Cup tournament by Oweren.
Well, they don't ski in Saudi Arabia, but watch Saeed Oweren slalom his way through the defense as he beats 1, 2, and 3 players with great skill and great timing and balance and composure at the end to find the upper corner of the net with this beautiful finishing touch.
But the underdog Saudi Arabian team was not playing for a 1-0 win. They were still going forward offensively and almost made it a 2-0 game on this great run and near finish by Falata. Saudi Arabia won it by a 1-0 score. and even great goalkeepers know they can be beaten.
Clemens Westerhoff, the Dutchman who has spent the last 5 years in Nigeria preparing this team for the World Cup. And his efforts paid off late in the first half on this beautiful little chip over the Greek defense by George. And by George indeed, that is some celebration by the Nigerians. They protected the lead well into the second half and then realized that one goal more could have added significance. And Amokachi broke through and fired this beautiful shot into the upper corner. That was the goal that won the group for Nigeria and made them proud carriers of the African tradition in the World Cup. Their reward, a date in Foxborough Stadium with powerhouse Italy.
Argentina fans hopeful for a great game from their side, knowing that they were without Diego Maradona for the first time. Without Diego, they threatened early, but Mikhailov made a big save for Bulgaria. His counterpart, Islas, didn't do the same against the great Stoichkov. Bulgaria would take a 1-0 lead. Stoichkov would end up with 6 goals in this '94 World Cup. Bulgaria got some help from Sirikov in injury time. This goal was a great one for Bulgaria. It won the game for them 2-0, but it also made Nigeria the champions of Group D. A stunned Argentina, though, would also advance. 24 teams came to the first stage. Only 16 would remain after. But what will always remain are the lasting memories of every match and every team. The round of 16 begins at Chicago's Soldier Field. Germany and Belgium. It marked the return to international success of the great Rudy Fuller, scoring to give the Germans a lead.
But some problems again at the center of the German defense, and this mix-up results in a tying goal by Belgium.
One of the Germans enjoying a strong World Cup was number 18, Klinsmann. He continued his goal-scoring prowess. Again, Germany was on top. And in control when Fuller headed this goal home.
And then controversy. The great Belgian striker Weber taken down in the box by 2 German defenders and no call made. Weber shows us his view of the decision. And it was all the more important several minutes later when Albert broke through the defense and scored Belgium's second goal. The Belgians felt cheated out of this game, and the Germans had yet another narrow victory.
A moving experience for Switzerland in the World Cup, but they weren't moving too well here on this move by Hierro, getting by an entire Swiss defense and scoring the first goal of the match for Spain. But more was to come for the Spaniards. Now it was Luis Enrique's turn to put on a finishing touch.
Spanish coach Javier Clemente wants no mistakes now and is in fact rewarded by a third goal, this one from the penalty spot. A 3-0 victory for the Spaniards, who achieved their goal of getting to the quarterfinal. For Switzerland, the end of the dream. Saudi Arabian fans were ecstatic to be in the round of 16. The Swedes had some bigger expectations. And early on it was a goal courtesy of Air Darlene, as a great ball is served into him and he gets his third goal by a header in the World Cup. Anderson at the other end, also a good header, this time goes on the ground and puts it right in the corner. But the Saudis showed why they truly belonged here with some great individual effort by Al Geshian, rounding the defense and burying it in the roof of the net to bring the Saudis within one. But on this day, Sweden and Anderson were not to be denied, as this time he finds the far post and celebrates their advance to the quarterfinals.
Most people felt this was the best game of the tournament, Romania versus Argentina, and it would be Romania scoring first off this direct free kick by Dumitrescu.
A bad mistake by Islas in goal, and if this was a demoralizing goal for Argentina, they didn't show it as they went on the attack and were rewarded by a penalty kick. And Batistuta gets his fourth goal of the World Cup.
But there was more to come from the offense of Romania. Dumitrescu slides by again. It's his second goal. Romania leads 2-1. Make it 3-1 when Haji, one of the stars of this team, connects.
Then more attacking by Argentina. A loose ball. And Balbo is there to put it in the roof of the net and draw them within one goal. Well, that one goal was hardly sweet enough consolation for Maradona. He was badly missed by Argentina as they go out. For Holland and coach Dick Advocat, the Irish round of 16 match was their biggest challenge so far. Overmars gets around the back of the Irish defence, and the danger man, Dennis Bergkamp, is there to finish it off and give Holland the early lead. More was to follow as Wim Jonk took one of his long-range shots, and Paki Bonner inexplicably let the ball in off his fingertips for the second Dutch goal. It was a great moment to savor for Wim Jonk and the Dutch team as they surged towards the quarterfinal, and a memory that Paki Bonner would rather not have of this World Cup. 4th of July in a sold-out Rose Bowl, and before a record TV audience, the coaches of the U.S. and Brazil expected a physical game. But nothing like what happened late in the first half as Leonardo turned on Tab Ramos and cracked him in the head with his elbow. The most vicious foul in the World Cup so far, and immediately Leonardo was given the red card as American players rushed to the defense of their fallen midfielder Tab Ramos. It would be the end of the World Cup for Tab Ramos and for Leonardo, who was suspended for the rest of the tournament.
But not the end for Brazil as they struck on the offense. On the right side, it is Bebeto. All he needs is an inch, and he got it at the far post. It's the only goal of the game. Brazil would win it 1-0. Fighting back the tears, the U.S. players saluted their fans. They were through in this World Cup, but they could hold their heads up high. The Nigerian fans and their players were starting to feel at home at Foxborough Stadium, especially early on against Italy, when Amunike scored the game's first goal. Arrigo Sacchi not happy with his team's efforts, at least not until the closing moments when the Italian hero came into form. Roberto Baggio puts the finishing touches on this goal that would tie it and send it into overtime. The heat was taking its toll. Baggio and others were stretching, knowing that they had at least another 30 minutes. And on this penalty kick, Roberto Baggio sealed the fate of Nigeria. It was the end of the line for this great African team, while Italy rolled on. Mexico would meet Bulgaria at Giant Stadium in the Meadowlands, two contrasting teams. It was Stoichkov's goal that got Bulgaria off to a 1-0 lead.
And this was a game that Mexico felt they could win, but they needed a penalty kick to tie it up. In the heat of Giant Stadium, a broken goalpost gave all the players a needed rest. But after 90 minutes, there was still no more scoring, and 30 minutes of overtime did not produce a goal either. So it came down to the first penalty kick tiebreaker of the World Cup, and Lechkov hits the winner for Bulgaria. Mexico is out, and Bulgaria goes on to the quarterfinals.
It was a quarterfinal match in Foxborough between Italy and Spain. The odds makers and the fans both favored Italy, especially when Dino Baggio scored the game's first goal.
But Spain was not about to lie down and let Italy roll on. They fought back bravely, put lots of pressure on the center of the Italian defense, and got their reward on a wonderful shot from Caminero.
Arrigo Sacchi became famous for all of his lineup changes. He put in Signori as a second-half sub. Signori comes through. So does Roberto Baggio after receiving this pass. With Zubizarreta out, and despite a bad angle, Baggio scores a great goal.
Baggio does absolutely everything right on this. Taking the ball into the space, rounding the keeper, and then the quick glance at the goal, and that's all he needs to measure the angle and put it into the post.
In the closing moments of play, an ugly incident taking place between Enrique and Tassotti. For Enrique, it ends up with a broken nose. For Tassotti, it's the end of the tournament, but not for his Italian teammates.
Holland-Brazil, the marquee match of the quarterfinals, and early on it's Bebeto serving up, and Romario with a deft flick of the right foot into the corner for a 1-0 lead. Again, Bebeto breaks the offside trap for Holland, goes in alone against Ed de Goey, and finishes it off, and Brazil look to be in complete control as they celebrate and rock the baby gently.
But Holland fights back. Dennis Bergkamp is their top goal getter, and he finishes it off, narrowing the gap to 1. Again, it's Holland. Off that corner kick, and it's Winter scoring. All of a sudden, the game is tied.
And Branco has a chance to win it with a free kick, and he does, in typical Branco style, from 30 yards out off the inside of the post. And Brazil wins in style, the best match they have played so far. The Dutch are out after their best performance, and Romario carries his team on to the semifinals.
More quarterfinal action. Germany, the defending champions, going up against Bulgaria at Giant Stadium in the Meadowlands. And the first goal comes off a penalty kick. Lothar Matthäus converts. The Germans had a 1-0 lead. They thought it was 2-0 when Rudi Fuller scored this goal, but it was ruled offside.
And the disallowed goal loomed large at the other end when Hristo Stoichkov got a free kick just outside the area, and he bends it beautifully, dipping it over the wall for the tying goal for Bulgaria. Then, only moments later, a shock to the German team as Lechkov dives inside Hassler and buries his header in the corner of the net. And it's 2-1 to Bulgaria. The Germans, the reigning champions, are out, and Bulgaria goes on to the semi-final against Italy.
This was Romania and Sweden from Stanford Stadium in Palo Alto, the last quarterfinal matchup. Sweden would end up scoring first, and they would score one of the prettier goals of the tournament as the ball is passed through Brolin, who snuck behind the wall on a free kick. But it was Romania coming back. Watch Radachoiu alone in front, getting the tying goal. After 90 minutes, Romania and Sweden played to a 1-1 draw.
And then into extra time, and in the first period of extra time, Radachoiu gets loose at the top of the box and puts Romania ahead 2-1. But the Swedes fought back, and Anderson soared over the defense and the goalkeeper to bury this header and make it 2-2. And then to penalty kicks, and the decisive one. Belogradich shoots, and Ravelli makes the great save. Ravelli, who became one of the great personalities of this cup, takes his team into the semifinals for a rematch against Brazil.
Semi-final action at Giant Stadium. Bulgaria, a surprise being this far, versus Italy, a three-time champion. And playing like a three-time champion as Roberto Baggio scores this great goal in the 21st minute. Minutes later, the great Baggio would score again, giving Italy a 2-0 lead. Players were happy, coaches, and fans. But the party slowed down when Stoichkov scored on a penalty kick prior to halftime. But that was all Bulgaria could score against the tough Italian defense. Italy would go on to the championship.
Sweden, Brazil in the Rose Bowl. They had played to a 1-1 tie in the earlier rounds, but this match was so much more important. Sweden defended gamely as Brazil threw everything they could at them in wave after wave of attack. Romario hitting this great shot that Ravelli just pushes aside, and then with a little dance of relief at the end, goes to retrieve the ball. But finally, Brazilian persistence paid off with that rarest of commodity, a headed goal by Romario. Brazilian fans are ecstatic. They're back in the final, where they feel they truly belong. So the stage was set. Brazil and Italy in the final. One of them would be a four-time World Cup champion.
Most people expected a closer match between Sweden and Bulgaria, but instead the third-place game was one-sided. Sweden won it by a 4-0 score, scoring all 4 goals in the first half of play. For their efforts, they come away with third-place medals, and congratulations from the dignitaries and the salute of their proud fans. Sweden came farther than most people thought they would.
Пинариво. Пятый возвратился сегодня на футбольное поле в первом матче. 8-й номер Мусси. 15-й Дино Баджо. 14-й Берти. В воротах Тафарел. 2-й номер Жоржиньо. 11-й Ромарио. 13-й Алдаир. Тренер команды Карлос Альберто Парейра. В двух каналах, можно сказать, даже совместный первый тайм в роли переднего центрального.
Александр Пуль предупредил футболистов, это устное замечание, вперед убрал мяч.
Нет, все-таки желтая
Нет,
карточка.
да. Мазиньо получает. Его, ну, как-то неудачно вообще для Мазиньо.
Роберто! Читник. Кто-то из итальянцев. Мяч, это Ду делал передачу. Роберто Баджо. Масар обыграл, удар! Вот, мяч обыграл защитника. На 18-й минуте. 14-й номер. Мест Жоржини. Вот это непонятно. Это явно тактический какой-то. Продолжается атака по мячу. Мазиньев.
Опять. Я сам как на ногах. Удар поворотом.
Смотрит на бокового судью. Даже не смотрел.
Да.
Держал. Судья
Поднял флаг. Несыгранность явная.
Мышцы был. А войдет номер.
Произвели и тот, и другой тренер игры, но вынужденные замены.
Причем интересно, два прав.
Извините, Ромарио, удар поворотом. Футбольного.
Звезды подстать. Штрафной должен быть.
Желтая карточка.
Это Аполлони.
Что убегает от него Ромарио, поэтому, как говорится, да, выскакивал, мог бы выйти тет-а-тет.
Лет мяч. Это прерогатива того, кто даже 15 сантиметров.
Вот как раз. Удар!
Из команды Асенкина. Второй тайм вы уже будете
Сделать, и в это время звучит без...
Прямой репортаж на российском канале. В 16:20 полная трансляция.
Который участвует мячом. Ах, какой из Ирана. За передачу, но не находясь в положении вне игры, получил Ромарио и мяч необычный. Опасный удар по воротам Тафарелла, он в углу ворот. Знаете, я уже говорил о такой несогласованности действий в первом тайме. Арбитр. И опять Бебесов с Ромарио на острие, и лишь в последний момент родится. Посмотрите, буквально 2 касания. Тут еще очень опасно. Франко прибежал со своего левого края обороны туда. Тех, смотрите, итальянских защитников, которые были рядом. Играет сегодня. Вот опасный удар по воротам. С стадионом прошел дождь, чего и в помине нет. Вдруг выпустил этот сильный удар. Баджо, удар. Баджо прямо по центру ворот. Чуть дальше видят Иши и мимо ворот. Дунга подает. Как опасно. Может быть, нам дадут повтор. Мазини ворвался в штрафную. Был такой, смотрите, честно говоря, на моем мутном мониторе. Как активно играет этот защитник. А сейчас народ... Как бы, наверное, а тем временем подошел к концу на 30 минут. 2 тайма по 15 минут. Ну, какая... Нет, Капу простреливал мяч. Как ошибаются итальянские защитники. Такой клише Бубета не ожидал, что мяч так легко достанет. Вторым броском Пальюка мяч накрыл. Вот смотрите. Странный Бубета, не знаю. Опасный удар. Вот смотрите, пожалуйста, и с лету бьет. Удар. Молодец, Пальюка. Не вынес мяч штрафной. Удар издали. Ивани бьет. Мяч пролетает. Я бы сказал, что решалось после матчевых пенальти. По-моему, такого просто ни разу не было, чтобы судьба Кубка мира.
Штрафной! Пас вдоль ворот! Удар! Ой! Остановились, считая, что было положение вне игры. Масар, Роберто Баджо, выход 1-1. Удар! А еще дальше идти сейчас Роберто Баджо.
Но я думаю,
1 минута переиграна. Сейчас
пятерку бьющих мы увидим по один. Франко Барези, Пальюка и Тафарелл. Вот они. Ну что ж, этот мяч на 11-метровый. Что же, посмотрите. Сильно. Вот это да.
играет в итальянском клубе Реджано.
мяча. И отбил, наговорил Франко Барези. Не волнуйся, я выручу из итальянцев. Но сейчас я тебе показать пас, выручил. Вот вам и каскад. Есть у игроков. Заговорил мяч. Вот он. От вратаря, посмотрите. В общем, думаю, трудно было бы ему. А, кстати говоря, ему было не просто его счету. Ой. Да нет, такой не ловит. Нет, в какой-то степени рискованно, но как вот просто хотел выручить. Такой расстроенный. Но в данном случае удар в запасе у Бразилии. И вот не надо разгадывать, надо стоять на месте. Тот угол, в который будет прыгать, а это, конечно, позволяет вратарю достать этот мяч. И пробил не в самый угол, потому что мы... Левый. Часть, ну, конечно, они столько терпели. Где находится международный вещательный центр, устроить, кто лучше кричит. Оказать просто кричать гол, это у них... Вот. Поменял. Да. Теперь Дунга. Лучше человек-гол. Человек-гол. И не забил. Там голубой эскадры команду. Франко Барези, капитан итальянцев, пошел. Счет становится. Да, тут вывел. Если он не забьет, то уже больше, вот посмотрите, теперь. Все, Роберто. Первое место неточным ударом. В истории мирового Барези и Баджо Роберто.
Альберто Феррейрой, тренера, которому исполнился 51 год, и которому так критики теперь может идти речь. Бразильцы чемпионы, итальянцы, если сказать вкратце, убиты горем. И посмотрите, как не забил мяч сам Роберто Барези.